Welcome everybody to On Purpose Talk, to our newest episode. I am Stanley.
And I am Dandy.
And we're happy to be here with you guys. And this is just going to be a different podcast today. We're doing it live, not just, recording just for the podcast like we normally do, but we're doing it live on Facebook, just trying something new and seeing how that goes. So welcome everybody. And I hope you guys are staying safe out there. It's been a interesting week, to say the least. Painful to watch, sad to see what our country is going through, the mourning, and also good to see the togetherness that's also bringing. There is positive and the negative, I believe, and we are seeing positives as well as we are seeing negatives, but I think that we're going to be able to pass that negative cloud and see the light at the end of the tunnel and finally bring change.
I agree.
I believe that with all my heart. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think everything comes to a time or a place where, if when you try something over and over again and it doesn't work out, eventually you're going to have to come to a place where you're like, you know what? We got to find that way out, or we got to find that solution, or and I think, I don't know why, I have a feeling we've gotten there. I have a feeling that there's an awakening, and that's a good thing. I think a lot of people are waking up,
Yeah. And it's, I think the awakening is for those who have thought and believe that things are normal. I think they're starting to realize that we are not as advanced in society as we thought. Now, we're an incredible country in the sense that, the stuff we have come up with even in the last 60 years technologically have been amazing. Even just the fact that we're doing this, we're able to do a podcast recording and live stream with people to watch us and listen to us and hear us. That kind of advancement is incredible, but the humanity side of it all is where we've lacked.
Right.
And I think that's the realization that people are coming to. That's like, it hasn't been enough.
Right.
And the first thing we must do is, come together for our fellow humans.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And as you see a lot of this stuff happening, I think one of the things that and I'm one to blame, like I am guilty of that. I knew a few years back, I would always want to believe that everyone was good, that people were good, and that there was no evil. And it's hard. You don't want to believe that. But I think that throughout this, last few years, I've had to come to terms with, what, there is people that are out there that are going to be just evil and mean and ugly inside. So I think that that's for me, one of the things that I've learned, or that when I see things like this happen, I realize, well, what do I expect? There's a lot of people out there that are just cold. Like they've allowed themselves for their hearts to get hardened and to get, cold. And that's the thing that, I keep looking at all this, and I don't want to be like that, like, oh, that person's evil, that person's good, that person's evil. So I keep thinking about it in a different manner. I keep thinking about, okay, what about the unseen? What about, what makes people act like that? What is it that drives them to be ugly inside? And I think that that's one of the main things that we should probably focus on. And I know a lot of people are not going to relate with me, and that's okay. But I feel like this is the way that I've been able to, like, deal with what I'm, my mind, the process that I'm going through in my mind and my heart, in just in my spiritual walk with God. And I feel like if we see things like, if we see the things that we cannot see, I think we're going to start understanding a little bit more of why things happen. But I mean, it's a spiritual warfare. That's what's taking place. And for a lot of people, they don't believe that there is a spiritual realm. And so me saying this might not even make sense.
Right.
But it's my reality.
Right.
It's what I've learned and what I've been seeing. And so if I'm going to speak about something like this, I have to give my perspective and the way that I'm looking at things. And I'm not saying that I'm completely right or wrong, or because it's not about that. I'm just saying my view, that's just it. When in my praying time, when I ask God, what is this? Like, this is insane. And this is what he's pouring into my spirit. And he reminds me, like, it's not against flesh and bones. It's not against flesh and blood. Like, it's a spiritual warfare, There is ugly, whatever you want to call them, beings, spirits, demons. There is an ugly side to that. And just like there's good, angels, there is bad angels. And those are the ones that they keep whispering into people's ears, saying, all the bad things, all the negativity, all the, they keep putting hate in their hearts. They keep reminding them, of all this ugliness and just being deceived. And so those are the people that they get a power trip because they believe, that they're in their own right, being mean, being evil. And those are the people that are out there to divide, to bring destruction, and to, do awful things like that. And so because then I ask God in all of this, like, okay, so what is the answer to that? Like, how am I supposed to react to this? I mean, I've even seen people like, with different suggestions, and like, do we have to literally physically get involved and be part of this whole thing when we see something like that, when we see injustice, when we see one of our brothers and sisters, getting mistreated? Do we walk in? Do we? Because I'm looking at it in a human race.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter the
Right.
color. That does not matter. So, but the thing is that it's gonna keep growing, and we're never gonna get to the end of things. So, my thing is like, okay, God, so how do we fight this, or how do and he says, my word is your weapon. And I'm like, but how? And he's like, because I have given you dominion, I've given you authority, and we have to speak like that. Like, he gave us authority to rebuke demons, to come against them. And yes, we might sound crazy in front of people when we say, what, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke, whatever you have to say. And he took me back to this one time when I first became a believer. I had a few friends that were like on fire, like when you barely, turn to God and you're on fire, and you want to take on the whole world, and you want to make them, know about God and stuff like that. So he reminded me about this one time when I first became a believer. I was like, God, what do you want me to do? I'm going to go and do whatever you want me to do. Go pray for the sick? Yes, I'm going to go. So there was friends that called me up. And they're like, hey, we're going to go into a hospital, and we're going to go pray for people, for their healing. And do you want to go with us? And I was like, yeah. Because, I have been waiting for anything, opportunity for anything. So there, I go, and at this time, honestly, I didn't know much. I mean, I had just barely started, getting to know the Word of God. But the little bit that I did know, I know that he had given us, authority. And he had also, I have read that you pray over the people that are sick, and they will get healed in his name. If you believe and you ask, if two or more come together, in his name, that he shall be in the midst and that he will heal them. So I started, I'm like, okay, God, you said this, so I'm going to go for it. So we went, and literally, as we were getting out of the elevator, we went to the hospital. And even it's so funny though, because you start seeing the opposition everywhere. But it's okay, we got through. And when the elevator opened, it's so weird how this one gentleman came like straight at me. Like my friends, the two people that I went with, the elevator opened and they just kind of went out of the elevator, and I stood there. But this man came like kind of straight at me, and it was so funny because he's like, "What are you doing here?" Like almost like he knew that we were coming. It was so weird. And so I was like, he's oh, so then one of my friends turns back. He's like, "Oh, we're here to pray for the sick, for people." He's like, "Well, you're not going to pray for my wife, so you better leave her alone. That's her over there." And he's like pointing at me. When he saw me, I saw his eyes, and they were like full of hate. Like it was sad. So I'm like, God, I know it's not him, because I know what your word says. So I wasn't speaking to him in a sense, but I was speaking of whoever was in him. And I said, greater is he who is in me than the one that's in you. And I went like that to him, and he was kind of like shocked. Like he looked at me like weirded out. I was weirded out, but he moved. And I kept walking, and I went straight to his wife, because that's where I knew, like he gave me direction. It's so funny how, if man, it's just God is good like that. And it gave me direction to where to go, and I started praying for his wife. And at first I was like, what just happened? But I said, no, I'm here for a reason. I know that I'm here for a reason. So anyways, long story short, I prayed for her. The next day, somehow, I didn't go, but they said, my friends were saying that she was like, asking for me, like, hey, who prayed for me? I really felt something. I'm not completely healed or anything, but I felt something. I don't know who she was, or so they had called me after and to tell me. But anyways, all to say that God reminded me of that. So to a lot of people, we look like crazy people. Like to a lot of people that were there, and that's how this battle is gonna be too. Like to a lot of people, you're gonna look crazy, but you have to, like, even as I was watching like videos today and stuff like that, or live streaming on everything that was happening, I was praying, and I was calling out to God, and I was saying, God, in the name of like, because I truly believe that's the only way. I really believe it's a spiritual warfare. Yes, we see, literally we see people attacking each other. We see vice versa, people, I'm sure everybody has seen it. But it's beyond that. It's beyond what we can see with our eyes. It's more than that. So we have to be wise, and we really have to ask God for wisdom to discern all these things, to know what it is that we're allowed to feel. Because the first thing that comes into our hearts are, we're filled with anger, and we want to, like, but see, if we do that, we're going to start building hatred, and we're going to start building, and that's not it. That's not the answer. And how do we defeat evil? With love. With even the people that look evil and that look ugly, we know down deep inside what's happening. We pray for them to be liberated, for them to be set free. What if it's just people that are hurt and that they've been like in bondage, and so they can't see love, they can't see the beauty in life or anything, because they are so, hurt inside, and all they want to do is just be mean and tough and, take it out on the world, whatever that means, if it's even on people or,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's...
Well, I do believe that God has called us to have dominion. And in certain ways, I feel like the protest is kind of taking over and having dominion as well, because there still is there's still something that has to be done, and prayer is obviously the greatest way to communicate with heaven about what's happening in direction. But the best way to communicate with people is like the same way we pray to the Heavenly Father. Prayer is talking. Prayer is communicating. We have to communicate with lawmakers. We have to communicate with the kind of people that hold majority and hold power to realize that there is something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
There is something really wrong. I like the CNN guy, Cuomo, was talking, and he was, pretty much calling out to his white people, and I don't ever want to like start separating human race by ethnicity, because I know this is what starts this whole thing, is that we start separating people because of color of skin. We start separating people because of ethnicity. We start separating people because of, backgrounds and what kind of territory they live in, whether it's in the U.S. or in other countries or whatever. And we separate everyone based on that. They were really good at that, but in our reality, we're the same race.
Mm-hmm.
We are the same race. We just handle the sun differently. Some people burn, some people tan. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
and so that's my view. That's kind of how I've developed my brain to know, just because I know that all in all, we are flesh and bone. We are blood. We are the human race. I mean, that really is who we are. But there is a sickness, and it's far beyond COVID. It's far beyond this pandemic. And the sickness has been going on for a long time, and it's systematically ingrained.
Yeah.
You and I are Latinos, and you were born in Guadalajara, but you came here at a very young age, and you were raised in downtown LA. I was raised in just south of LA, and we saw the disparity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can honestly say that I didn't think I was in the ghetto.
Right. Yeah, you just...
Until I saw a nice neighborhood, a suburban neighborhood.
Right.
And then I realized something was wrong. Like, I just realized I wasn't where I thought I was.
Yeah.
And in part, that has to do a lot to, in credit to my parents, for providing what we needed. We were never in need. We didn't have a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, obviously I wanted stuff for Christmas and I didn't get it, but it wasn't anything I needed.
Right.
There was always food at the table. We always had clothes. My clothes were never ripped. I had more than one pair of shoes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I look at it now from an adult. When you're a kid, you don't understand that stuff. You want the new Jordans. You want
Right.
the new Reebok pumps. The pumps were like new when I was a kid. I know to all my 90s.
Me, it was like all the Vans.
Right.
Like, yeah.
The Vans didn't come. The Vans didn't come till later, but I'll tell you right now how that worked. But growing up in an urban, private school. I went to a private school. On top of still that, I went to a private school. My first 6 years of elementary, where it was other urban kids whose parents worked a little harder, or were able to at least pay for a private school at our church. And so here we are in the heart of downtown LA, all these kids with different backgrounds and with messed up backgrounds.
Yeah.
I'm talking about pretty messed up backgrounds. Some were great, some were solid, but it was just where they came from was just not good. And they saw stuff. I learned stuff in that school that I didn't think I was gonna. I don't think any kid. I mean, I've shared with you some stuff, and you go, well, you were too young to experience it. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
this is just to show you the kind of kids that went there, and these were the kids that were not going to public school. These are kids that their parents are like, you better go to private school because you need to straighten up.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And even then, going to I went to a predominantly white school from sixth grade until I left high school, and seeing the difference. And I didn't know I had an accent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like those kind of stuff,
Yeah.
like start springing out, and you just you realize, oh, I'm not part of this club.
Right.
And the club being not anything in particular, but just being part of a human club.
Right.
I'm not part of everyone. They're separating me for being different. Apparently, this person who I am right now in the moment makes me awkward compared to everybody else.
Right.
And that's just a small scale. That's just in the school scale, in the small private school scale.
Yeah.
That also is the same in the large nationwide scale. That is what's going on. What's going on is, we give privileges to people because they have a certain income, because they have a certain skin color and certain eye color, or better looking, or whatever. We give this privilege, and everybody else has to bow down to that. And that's the system that's broken.
Mm-hmm.
We don't give a chance to everyone just like the way we give a chance to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that is what we've been programmed to think. You see that on TV, on media, on movies, on everything, even music, because even the way men describe women, the way that they should look, you're talking about a 10.
Yeah.
So I think it's all that.
Yeah, what we define beauty.
Yes.
What we define good, what we define acceptable. And, I even see it in, in the church culture too. Who dictated that one certain type of music has to be the only way to listen to worship?
Right.
Why is it only one certain type of music has to be, and I'm talking about style.
Mm-hmm.
Worship in all reality has to do everything with what you're saying and who you're directing your song to. But who dictated the style?
Right.
Why isn't the styles more? There's more diversity in styles at my gigs than in churches.
Well, and this is where I also think that a lot of people are just followers. Like literally, like they see a style or they like it and they're like, "Oh, we're going to do that too."
Yeah.
And
that's also lack of creativity.
Yeah. But see, there goes to show you how much power, everything has. Like you do a hit song and then all the churches want to play it because that's it. So, but what happened to creativity? What happened to I don't know.
Well, I do long for the day that, in the church, every region will sing their worship songs based out of their experiences.
Yeah.
What I experienced is not the same thing that Australia experienced.
Right.
What my culture here in Phoenix is all about, not necessarily the same as what happens here in Phoenix or what used to happen to me in LA.
Right.
So, I think music in a sense can be regional, how we experience it and embrace that, embrace the difference in that. But going back to what we're going this week, I remember I heard about what happened to George Floyd, and I kind of didn't want to see it that day. You saw it that night, on social media. And I remember you were pretty disturbed. I remember, I think I was working here in the studio. This is my studio, by the way. You guys are here in my studio. We're going through like every part of the house doing our podcast. And I remember I was going to bed, and I remember how angry you were. I remember how disturbed you were. And I remember telling you, I go, this is why I haven't been wanting to watch the video yet, because I don't want to get to that place. But the next morning, I just decided I have to watch it. I have to know what's going on. And it really pissed me off.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really pissed off. Not because I'm shocked. You have to understand that I've seen this happen. We've seen
Mm.
the unfair treatment to just people of color, people of from all colors of the spectrum, but for the most part, Black people and Latinos, especially communities we're coming to. I mean, you get stopped for the dumb things, and you get hassled and harassed for the dumb things, and my dad was just telling me a story, just something that happened on his work. They'll stop him just because. He goes, my dad telling me, dude, he saw me, and he made it a point to turn around to stop my truck and give me a ticket saying I was speeding. He goes, I wasn't speeding, and to incriminate me, incriminated him and this just happened like 2 weeks ago, and so just because he looks different, and my dad, is the whitest shade of white. I mean, with some tan, but like freckled dude, but it doesn't matter. Just as soon as my dad starts speaking, he's Latino, and there's no.
We lived that. I mean, so many times. Oh, right outside my house, we would be playing, and there was all kinds of. We were all mixed, so. And then even a time when we were dancing, we had our cardboard on the floor, and I remember we had our little boombox playing, and we were dancing, and literally like two cops came, and what are you guys doing? And we're like shocked. We're like, can't you see we're dancing, kind of thing, And I mean, we're kids. Of course, we're going to be intimidated. Of course, you always have that one person that's kind of like. Yeah, the rebel.
Yeah.
And actually, he was a pauper. He was like he was tough. Yeah, that was his name. And he went up to them and he said, "What does it seem like we're doing?" He was kind of like getting a little
attitude.
Yeah. And they're like, you're not supposed to be doing that. And then we were like, all of us were like, huh? Honestly, we were lost because we're like. We're dancing. Like, this is not bad. Like, he's all like, are you all in a gang? For real.
Oh, gosh.
And we were like, what? Like,
right.
We were so confused.
A group of mixed Latinos and Blacks.
Yeah.
Automatically you're in a gang.
Yeah. And we were like, we didn't know what to say. That's how ridiculous this whole thing was. And that was like one of the first times. So, I was younger. I didn't know how to like defend myself, how to say like, sir, we're not doing anything. Like, we're just dancing,
right.
But they made sure that they intimidate us. They made sure that they try to put fear on us. They made sure like I think that was the whole thing. Cause they obviously saw we weren't doing anything wrong. We were dancing. But I mean, I saw that was one of the first times, but that kept going.
Do you know how old you were?
I was 13.
13.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
Dancing.
Yes. And we were called a gang.
Oh, gosh.
And.
Should have named your gang.
Yes. And, we really, like, we grew up with that. We grew up having to deal with that and seeing that. I saw it a lot, happening to other people, too. It was just right there behind our backyard. You saw that. So.
Yeah. Oh, big shout out to Leslie in the house.
Hey, Leslie.
How's it going, Leslie? Thank you for stopping by.
Yeah.
Welcome to On Purpose Talk.
Our one and only viewer. It's all good.
Yeah. So also another person that was raised in LA with you.
Who?
Leslie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She was like, what, a block away from me, 2 blocks away. So she saw a lot of this happening too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's just that's kind of exercising your right as a citizen. You kind of have to commend your friend for standing up and goes, what does it look like we're doing? I mean, knowing your rights as a citizen, knowing what this entitles.
Right.
Because if I don't know, education is important. Education in the sense of not school or whatever. I'm talking about education as far as like just knowing your rights as a citizen.
Yeah.
Knowing where you stand and knowing where, what you can and cannot do, so that they don't tell you something else. So I'll tell you something different and some
Concrete jungle. Yep.
What's concrete jungle?
Concrete jungle. That's where we lived. You know.
I'll put that in there. Hey,
Yeah.
Leslie, put it in there. What is that's what it's called, the neighborhood?
Concrete jungle. And then also in Jam on the Groove, there was a skit that was dedicated just for that, like for people that were in the streets doing nothing, and then the cops would always come and try to like bring something out. Like you started feeling guilty for no reason. They would make you believe that you were doing something bad, even if you weren't doing something bad.
Yeah.
So that's what the skit was about. That's cool.
That's great.
Yeah, but it's true. That's what it was. Concrete jungle.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, you know, my hope in all of this that those who have a voice can use it. Those who have a strong voice can use it, you know, and just use your voice, period. But I know there's someone out there that knows. Like, you know what? I know that my voice can be heard, and this, you know, this atrocity must stop. Violence is not the answer. I know that. Looting is not the answer. Breaking into stuff is not the answer. You know, it causes pain for others. Like, I want you to understand that when you go out there and you decide to destroy, I know the bottom of all this isn't to destroy, it's to protest and to march and to make your voice heard. But if you're the kind of person that have decided to destroy, what you're doing is you're causing pain for not just yourself, and not just for a moment, and not just to feel good and get that rush, but you're causing pain for a week's worth. Let's say in Phoenix, we have a curfew now for a whole week. A week's worth of people going to work. Mm-hmm. People have to do stuff. People that have businesses too, like, you know, especially now that we just opened 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the fact that, you know,
but who are we talking to? Because we have to be real here. A lot of these people, there's protesters, and then there's people that are looting. Like, there's people that just, I just finished talking about there's evil people that are gonna try and mess the whole thing up.
Because there could be now, you know, hear me in this. There could be people who go with the righteous mentality, thinking that
they're going to make a difference.
By doing this, by destruction is going to make a difference. By destruction, you're adding to the greater cause. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And then there's just people who are just played out, just evil. They just want to mess up what's happening.
Yeah.
Because something good is happening. The nation is coming together, and they're fed up.
Yeah.
And people are coming together like never before, and they're fed up, and they want change, mm-hmm. and they're asking for change, and they're demanding change, like we're supposed to as citizens. But I know there's going to be people who are going to want to kill that.
Yeah.
There's going to be people who are going to want to kill that.
Yeah, they're trying to distort the whole thing.
So maybe those who are protesting in peace and want it to continue peaceful should keep an eye out for those who are not wanting peaceful, and go against that and stand up against that. Yeah. Stand up against destruction. Stand up against crime, because it's a crime, you know, looting, and let's be peaceful about it. Now, there are circumstances where the cops have responded harshly, and there I can't help you because, I mean, it's gonna come to a point now where it's just, you know, you hit me, I'll hit you back. I mean, it's gonna come to that point. It gets to a breaking point. You know, I don't like confronting someone in fights. I don't like fighting. I don't believe in fighting. But you keep pushing me, and you keep pushing me, and you keep pushing me, and I'm just gonna swing. I mean, I'm human. I'm not perfect, and you know, it gets.
That's why I get, like, you know, sometimes, honestly, I ask God.
I mean, I wanted to punch that cop guy as well as watching, you know.
Of course.
That officer, I wanted to punch him in his freaking. There was so many things that was running through my mind. Yeah. And that's another thing too. Like, you know, I know the girl that was taking the video was, you know, immediately attacked. It's like, dude, you know, you don't understand the whole picture sometimes. We don't understand what's going on. She's screaming at the officer. She's 17 years old. The girl was taking a video, and she got harassed online for, why did you do something? She's 17 years old.
Yeah. What
She's
did she
already
do?
scared. She's already crying. You know, I
And
mean,
even
I
like
think
that, she
I
was
think it was
speaking.
bold enough
Yeah.
that she was taking a video and she was telling them what's up.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, let's be rational in a lot of things, but it's just,
It's hard, and I'm gonna
it's
be
just
honest.
telling you.
This is why sometimes, like, when I go to God with things, I'm like, oh, I kind of know what He's already gonna tell me, and that kind of like kills it for my flesh, because I want to be mad sometimes. You know, I want to be like, but then I have to, because I know that I'm gonna go crazy. You know, you get filled with anger, and you get filled with like frustration, you know, because you can't do anything about it in the sense of you're seeing it. But you know what? I believe that we can do something about it. You know, we can talk about it. We have the choice. Like we can either just be silent and say, oh, well, you know, or we can talk about it and say, you know what? Talk about it with your family. Talk about it. It's healthy to dialogue. It's healthy to, you know, to be mad. Like I was telling Joy last night, I'm like, Joy, it's okay to be mad. It's okay to like, the bad thing is to act upon it, you know, but it's okay to express yourself and to say whatever you need to say, whether it's you saying bad words or, you know, whatever. You go into your own world and you deal with it, but it's healthy to deal with it. Let it process, let it sit in your heart, let it burn too. Like at first I was so mad, and I didn't want to like go to God just yet, and I wanted to let it burn because I don't want to forget. Like I don't want to lose empathy. I don't want to lose like, you know, that person in me too, you know, because I know God constantly tells you love one another, you know, like forgive that cop as you're seeing him doing that. Like do not. I'm like, how? Like it's a battle. Are you kidding
Now
me?
forgiveness isn't about weakness.
No, but it
If
feels that way
forgiveness isn't
sometimes.
about also going back into that, submitting yourself to getting your ass beat. Forgiving is of knowing that that person has the issue, you know, and that he's gonna have to deal with it, and he's gonna have to answer for that. And then our response will be to stand up, for the system, maybe to whatever it is that they're feeding into the idea in people's heads that they have authority and supremacy over someone else, to reverse that. You know, let's say in a line of duty in a cop, and to engrave in their heads that your first priority is to protect. Your first priority is to protect the citizens you vowed to protect, the citizens of the county, of the city that you work for, to protect. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
Over your feelings. It has to be over your feelings of what you think of that certain ethnicity or that certain race,
Right.
or your so-called race. You know, that's what, if that is not implemented, then we have to weed that out. We have to keep people who have standards of outstanding standards at home. They lead that through their lifestyle, just like kind of almost what we require for politicians, even though they don't, they're like sometimes the worst. But you know, that kind of idealism that we require for politicians, sometimes I feel like we should do that with authority, with people from the police, or people from, you know, who have that kind of authority, from detectives or whatever, that they are upstanding citizens, and we all agree that yes, they can protect us. You know, besides, I know there's physical requirement, and because I mean, come on, I mean,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get the weakest security to come protect you. I mean, I've seen security at clubs and restaurants and bars. They don't get the weakest guys. They get the tough, meanest looking dudes.
Right.
So obviously having to be able to like have all that, like just like what we require. Sometimes I feel like we require more from other people than we do from our police.
Yeah.
And as citizens, we can talk. I think we can talk and just go, hey, you know. And so this talk of forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean that you got to be weak and you put your neck back into that person's knee. It's quite the opposite. You know, what it is like you understand that the issue is with that person, and you're not creating bitterness in yourself.
Yeah. I this is when I totally think about Jonah, you know? Like how he was upset at God that he would give people an opportunity to like make things right, or how he would give them a chance. And I sometimes feel like that, and I feel like God is saying, don't be Jonah. Like, don't be Jonah. Like, you know,
Right, because we want to give the message and we want to do it, but we still want to watch them burn.
Yeah. You're like, no, but they have to pay for it, and they have to, you know.
Right.
Because that's what we want. Like, that's the desire that comes automatically out of you.
Right. I mean, it's human nature, and I get it. No, not that.
I know. That. But I'm honest, you know, those feelings and those thoughts do cross my mind. And I guess this is why it's important for me to have a relationship with God. Otherwise, I'd be a crazy woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
We'd all be crazy. You see, Leslie says, when I was a little girl, I remember going to downtown LA and hearing some of these men at the street corners talking about God. Whatever happened to that? What kind of men were these?
Like evangelists, kind of.
Are you talking about like evangelism with the what do they call megaphones? Interesting. You know, those days sometimes are over. I mean, sometimes I do see people. What was the other day we saw somebody screaming in the right? Where was it? Was it in Tempe?
I think.
And they were talking about they're screaming and telling people they're gonna go to hell.
Yeah.
I guess it's not the same thing as talking about God. I think whenever you bring a subject of God into these matters, you got to talk about how the kingdom is. And the kingdom of God puts the people who are last first. Mm-hmm. That's what the kingdom of God does. The kingdom of God sees injustice, and justice is made. Mm-hmm. You know? And us as citizens of heaven, we have to display these characteristics. I always talk to you about it because I don't know who the heck I talk about this too, but I always say this. When I used to travel and I used to go to places in Latin American places, I'm talking about everywhere from Mexico down south, and everyone automatically knew I was a U.S. citizen. And I'm Latino and I speak Spanish. And I was, traveling with a Spanish-speaking band. But they knew we were from the U.S. They knew, they would be like, oh, son americanos. And I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about just regular people. They knew they would came from the U.S. And a lot of it was either the way we dressed, the way we spoke, the way we crossed the street, or the way we drove. And those are little things that don't make a lot of sense, but I'll tell you this much. I've gone to these countries, and if you drive in these countries, you don't know what the heck the rules are. By looking the way everybody drives, you do not know what the rules are. You would think the rules are the same on the streets of Latin America as they are here in the U.S., but they're not. Because a red light doesn't necessarily mean stop anywhere. A red light could be go or whatever you feel or whatever the traffic is. But you don't know that. And you're driving in these countries and you stop and you're the only bozo in the stoplight. And then they're honking at you because you don't go. It's like, dude, I got a red light and you don't want to get in trouble. They know that you are a U.S. citizen because you obey the laws of traffic. Mm-hmm. Or you obey the laws of pedestrian traffic. Now, I know there's jaywalkers in big cities. I used to see it all the time. I used to also see them get tickets all the time. But for the most part, I never wanted to get my ass ran over. So I obeyed the laws of traffic, of a pedestrian. So even in my ways of walking, I would wait for that little walking guy light to turn on. And there I was. I would go. And that's not the case. And so I believe as a citizen of heaven there are cultural, what would you call them? Cultural
Like you can distinguish.
customs.
Yeah.
Cultural customs from a citizen that distinguishes you from the citizen of heaven. And one of those is forgiveness. One of those is love. One of those is patience. You know, are things going to change tomorrow? That's the hope. But in all reality, that's not the case. So our patience come into practice. Do we just stop here? Do we just say, no, I'm done. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want you to know something. All my black brothers and sisters have been under oppression for 400 years in this country, and for a long time they endured, and I'm sure their patience worn out, and it finally came to pass where slavery was abolished. But there's slavery in so many other ways that we don't see it. We enslave people by systematically putting them in schools that are worse than others, and neighborhoods that are bound to not prosper, yet it becomes bad. It's not bad because of the people. It's bad because they cannot go anywhere. There's just nothing for them. Nothing is created, nothing is provided. The system doesn't do anything for them, but yet there's more grants and more stuff looked at in other schools, in other school districts than there is in these school districts. I mean, this is exactly why my dad chose to work his butt off and my mom work her butt off so that I wouldn't be stuck in the school system in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you that the drive to these schools wasn't called, we didn't choose a very close school. Like, these were drive schools that we had to drive to. My parents had to drive even earlier to go to their already early schedule to work, to drop us off so that they can make it to work, and at the same time we can go to school. I mean, the kind of sacrifice they made, I am grateful. I understand. Yeah. And you have to understand why that would be. If you are privileged to be in a system where your public school is great, good for you. Mm-hmm. Man, what a privilege. But that privilege gives you also responsibility to not have a blind eye to those who don't have that privilege. Mm-hmm. Don't take your privilege for granted, but use it for something good. Use it to help your brother and your sister out. The human brother and sister that they are. People call them black people, African American. People call them Latinos. People call them brown. Whatever it is, they're human beings. It's the human race. They're your brothers and sisters.
Yeah. And
so, not forget that, and rise up and be a citizen. Show what your citizenship is like. Whether you're like us that believe in God and believe in His Word, then with more. Yeah. With more.
Even more so.
We are called to be the church. The church isn't the building we go to. It's not this religious entity. It's become that, but it's not. I don't believe it. I don't know it like that for me. I don't know it like that for us. But Citizen of Heaven calls us for when there's injustice, we go there and we help. Obviously don't answer with hatred.
Right.
Don't let hatred seep in your heart. Don't answer with violence. Don't answer with any form of evil, but answer with love, care, and with dominion. Love, care, patience, but with dominion. And the dominion side is saying, no, that's wrong. No, that's not right. No, that cannot happen. No.
Right.
That's it. Just saying that. Standing up. And, yeah.
And that when you hear other people saying no, that you would back them up.
Yeah.
That you'd be there, Don't pretend that it's not happening. Don't pretend, because I think that does exist a lot. Like I get it, we have phones now and we can record things and we can, but I've seen times where people could have like helped other people out and they just act like whatever. The other day I told you, I saw this little project that they did and they put a doggy, like a homeless doggy, and he had a sign and said, "My owner left me," but it wasn't true. I mean, it was like they were just trying to see who would do anything or whatever. And the doggy was, alone in a blanket, and he had a cardboard next to him, and it said, "My owner left me because he couldn't take care of me. I'm hungry." And people kept, this is a dog, for crying out loud, this is a doggy, and people were just walking and they would read it and then they would keep going like nothing. This happened for a while. The dog was like, I don't know how he did it. Poor doggy. He was there for a long time. They were filming everything. And then this homeless guy comes over and he reads the thing and he keeps walking, but then you can see like he gets, something. This is I'm sure it's like his heart. I'm sure it's like his mind. He's thinking, I'm a homeless myself. What am I doing? He turns back and he gives him everything he has. Like he starts bringing out stuff out of his pocket. He's like, I have a dog too. He brings out a bowl and literally starts feeding the dog like, kibbles. And I'm like, wow, it took a homeless person. Like, and I'm like, other people saw that and nobody was willing to help. But yet this homeless person, he's in a worse situation than everybody else, and yet he's willing to give everything he's got to a dog. Like, these are the things that sometimes make me think a lot. Like, wow, what are we made of? Like, what do we stand for? Like if we're not gonna be taken with things like that, if we can't walk in love, if we can't have empathy, if we can't have mercy on a doggy, it's like, wow.
Baby, people don't have mercy on a human. They don't expect much for a dog. No, but don't expect much for a dog.
I know, but do you see what I'm saying? Like a dog is like he cannot defend himself. He's a dog. A person can at least talk.
But they still have no mercy for a human.
I know, but this is where I'm saying, and this is where
that doesn't shock me.
No,
I'm just telling you.
No, but I include myself in this, because I'm like, wow, we are ugly. We are ugly sometimes. Like we're really selfish. We really are. Like we go about our day and we just think about our well-being and how, if everything's great with me, I shouldn't even stop and bother because I don't want to bring that kind of stuff in my life. I don't want to bring it down, or I don't want to. And this is what I'm talking about. If you see that, like, let's start doing something about it. Like, let's not ignore a situation, a need. I mean, maybe that was like, maybe not the right example, but I don't know why that popped in my head. But like, come on, we got to be better human beings.
I agree.
I
agree. I want to encourage everybody who's watching us to examine yourself. Examine yourself where you sit down in this and, what if maybe you're giving a 1,000 excuses of why you shouldn't say anything or speak up, and maybe it's like, well, I'm fine.
Right.
A lot of times you're so good and you're so fine. Now I want you to know, in your comfort, there are people who are uncomfortable, and for something stupid. I know we can sit there and list all the uncomfortable stuff that there is in the world, but there's nothing like knowing or having the feeling that you can never be comfortable because of this melanin you wear every day that you can't take off. See, like, you're comfortable, but you could be comfortable in your home and say nothing. But people like George Floyd, whose maybe only mistake was that he was black. I don't see a mistake in it. People could dig in all the trash they want. Everything that keeps popping out is that no one's perfect. Don't tell me you're perfect. But this is a person who used to give back to his community and give back to Um, encouraging others to think, encouraging others to be better for themselves and better themselves, and to, I don't know, to be part of a community so that, and mentor kids and mentor younger, so we're talking about a person whose only mistake to get to that ground with his neck pinned to the ground by someone's knee while two other cops hold his legs.
They're all on top of him.
Oh my gosh. That's, examine yourself. Just examine yourself. It has to stop. It just does. I remember even the killings of schools and all these white kids when they would get arrested. I didn't see this kind of treatment. And these are people who murdered 13 people, or murdered a mass shooting. And the way they get arrested and the way they're walking and the way everything's going on, super calm, I have to say. Very, very calm. And the fact that we know that there's a difference of treatment, we know it. I know you know it. Don't tell me you don't.
No.
I know you know it. Examine yourself and just go, okay, maybe I'm a little too comfortable.
No.
And maybe I'm a little too selfish. And let's change that. Selfishness doesn't take us anywhere. Selfishness looks out for you. You look out for you. But what's funny is that when you need someone, I see you in your feeds. GoFundMe, help me, everybody. Let's come together to help me. That's what you're crying for. But when somebody else is in need, and when somebody else needs someone else to stand up with them, you're too comfortable. You're too good. Life's too good for you, so therefore it says it doesn't affect you. Or it's not your people, or it didn't happen to you, or you don't know anybody that's happened to. You think it's fine.
Yeah. It's like that stupid saying, you do you.
Yeah.
You know what? No, it's not about you do you. No, it's not about you do you. You have to be bigger than that. It's not about that. But it's that we've been programmed, we've been fed, we've been told this is how you should live life. It starts really early on, and that we have to, I don't even know how to say it, unlearn,
yeah.
Unlearn that mentality.
Unprogram ourselves.
And start all over again.
You want to have a life with purpose. That's a good direction.
Yeah.
Any life with purpose requires human beings at your side. I'm gonna give you an example. I once met a pastor one time. I'm not gonna name names, and it wasn't too long ago. And my brother and I were setting up, and he goes, "Yeah, man, I'm starting a church. But we want to make a church for the higher income people. We don't want none of them con artists. We don't want any thugs. We don't want any low income people coming to my church." Oh man, I was just kind of like, I looked at him with so much disdain and so much anger, and my brother was like, I couldn't believe he was like, I knew there was pastors like this because, action speaks louder than words. This is something my wife has taught me for the last 12 years. And I knew that you didn't have to tell me. You can say that you love people all you want. You can say that you love the Lord all you want. But I know there's pastors that think like this. But this guy was pretty much telling me his game plan. And this is a pastor who says loves God, and this is a pastor who says that wants to do good for the community. And this is how they think. There's a lot of people who think the same way towards someone opposite of the race, someone different from the race, someone different from their background. someone different from their ethnicity. And, those people need to be stopped. Those people should not be leaders. Those people should not be leaders of communities. Those people shouldn't be shouting louder than me or than you. Those people should be stopped. Those people should be refrained. Those people should be stripped from their authority and not allowed to be, in this. Leslie says, thug love. Big shout out to Leslie. Thank you, Leslie, for making us laugh. Anyways.
Yeah, we needed that.
Yeah.
We got too serious.
Well, we kind of knew this podcast is going to be different. This is why we're in a little quieter setting, I think. Even though our puppies are here, you don't hear them because we have carpet here. You don't hear them walking around. But thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for hanging out with us on Purpose Talk. This is kind of cool. This is kind of different. I hope you guys like this. Well, you, Leslie, I hope you like this. Actually, we got 5 hearts. Oh, that's cool. Anyways, hope you guys like this episode. And, I just want you to reflect. I mean, I have a lot of reflecting to do for me. I have a lot of reflecting to do for my family, and this is making me, think, I pray for everybody. I pray for my brothers and sisters that have gone through this. I pray for them. I pray for their families. And I stand with them and everything I can do. Find out what you can do.
Yes.
And do it.
Yes.
Everything in your power. Listen to people. Before you want to argue with anybody, just listen. Listen to what they have to say. Pay attention.
Yeah, I think it's...
Don't listen. Don't believe everything.
Yeah.
I know there is a lot of information out there that tries to misguide what the purpose of everything is. But there is a purpose. And I'm loving where this is going as far as the purpose. And that purpose is that change needs to happen systematically. Mm-hmm. Change needs to happen.
Yes, enough.
If enough is enough, racism should not be allowed in any authority. Mm-hmm. Period. It should not be condoned. It should not be allowed. It should be, just abolished. It should be abolished from the system. Our American system should be full of people that have the right choices in their head, mm-hmm. that see humans for who they are, and are fair, and outstanding citizens. Just so whatever power we have to do, please exercise that power. So appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you for. Here's the last shout out from Leslie. Our friend Leslie. Love you guys. Okay. Keep it up. Waiting for more podcasts soon.
Thank you, Leslie. We love you too.
Thank you. And we love you, and we love everybody who sticks with us in our crazy topics. Yeah. And so stay safe out there, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.